I had seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, so I felt fairly confident in my preparations for beginning my clinical work at Weston State Mental Hospital in West Virginia. I mean, how surprising can it be? Well, I learned. Not only was I ill prepared to deal with the residents, but I was ill prepared to deal with staff and administration as well. But the person that I had the most trouble dealing with was me. Not only was it a challenging emotional journey, but it was a time of great revelation. Not only about myself, but about my attitudes toward those who I so easily dismissed as crazy or having mental illness. What I discovered was that there really was very little difference between them and me. The only thing was that all of those idiosyncrasies, those quirks, those delusions, those neuroses that I possess were just cranked up with them. It was a little harder for them to hide them than it was for me. And believe me, this year has really pushed the limit on my ability to hide all those things too, and caused me to wonder if I needed to check myself in to the Green Roof Inn. What I discovered that summer was that mental illness is probably within all of us, and that there really is very little difference between us. In fact, the great fear that those of us that worked the hospital had was that we would lose our keys, because the key was the only significant difference between us and the residents. At the end of the day, I could unlock the ward and go back to my apartment. Our fear was that without that key, would anybody believe that we really weren't crazy? As I said, I learned a great deal that summer, and it has served me well as I've come here to Clarion. It became an entry place for me as I have worked within the mental health field, both the county system and independent nonprofits. I've come to know my share of what I call Clarion's colorful characters. Those that many would deem crazy, mentally ill, mentally challenged. But what I discovered with them is they became some of the most honest and truest of friends in some pretty bizarre ways, but they changed my life. And unfortunately, over the last few years, I've had to say goodbye to so many of them. Joe, Quilly, Richard, Nancy, Mary Lou, and most recently, Billy Irwin. Billy was one of those guys that just made life worthwhile. If you were having a bad day, all you need to do was encounter Billy on the street or at Michelle's coffee shop, and he would beam those pearly whites with a grin that went from ear to ear and laugh a laugh that went deep into the belly. And you couldn't help but get dragged kicking and screaming out of your funk. He was life-giving. And that is what we see. They are not challenged. They are differently gifted. And the gifts they have to offer us are some days more precious than gold. Jesus knew that. When the disciples tried to shoo off the children, the colorful characters, Jesus chastised them and reminded them that unless one becomes like a child, one can't see the kingdom. I've had many friends that have been able to see the kingdom in ways that I never grasp. And I pray that my life will be continually blessed by such colorful characters as Billy and the Lot. They keep me smiling and healthy. Children of the Heavenly Father, safely in His bosom gather, nestling birds, no star in heaven, such a refuge e'er was given. God His own doth tend and nourish, in His holy courts they flourish. From all evil things He spares them, in His mighty arms He bears them. Neither life nor death shall ever from the Lord His children sever. Unto them His grace He showeth, and their sorrows all He knoweth. Though He giveth or He taketh, God His children ne'er forsaketh. His the loving purpose solely to preserve